Alright, yeah, I'm thinking oil pastel would be perfect for our other stuff too. Alright, choose your yellow, choose your red, whatever you think is going to work best. I'm going to go with like a golden autumny kind of yellow, ochre yellow. You decide if that works best for you. Your art, your choice. Okay. Now, my paint's not really that dry, the paints that I'm using right now, because I have tube paint. But if you have a dry palette, kind of like a palette cake, you're going to want to spend a little more time in your water cup than I do, okay? My problem is that I have a lot of liquid because my paints are already wet, that I have to be super careful with the amount of water that I'm using. So give yourself about maybe one happy birthday song in your paint cup and then tap off the extra water. Push your brush against the lip of your cup and then spend about 2 happy birthday songs in your paint. We're going to start from light and we're going to move our way to dark. That way we don't have to worry about tainting our color, our watercolor. If your paint is wet, just dunk your brush into the cup, tap, 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 and squeeze off the extra water by running your brush up against the lip of your cup. And I have a flat, medium flat here. I'm going to use the bristles to outline the tip, and then I'm going to use the flat part to drag it in. That's why I have a flat. That way I don't have to clean 2 different brushes. This is going to be a controlled wash. We'll kind of create like a little fence with our watercolor paint. And just do the very tips, the curved part of your feathers. If you have to revisit for some extra paint, go ahead and do so. And if your paint's dry, you might have to spend a little more time in your palette than what I'm doing for my art piece. That's okay. I'm lightening my beak while I'm waiting because I forgot that the beak, I want kind of like that golden yellow color too. I didn't think about that. Alright, do your beak. Lighten the lines in your beak. Outline your beak. And add some color to your buckle. Like put your buckle in if you plan on having a yellow buckle. Right. Dab that color into the beak area. See, my paintbrush is way too wet for this. So I'm just going to dab, dab, dab. I'm going to go real careful. If you're getting puddles, your paintbrush is way too wet. Squeeze off some of that extra water. Pick it up and put that paint elsewhere, or else you're going to start warping your paper. There we go. I'm not going to worry too much about getting some paint outside of my beak because I'm going to be using a dark brown. That dark brown is going to overpower that area. So if you get just a little bit outside your beak, don't panic. We got this. And you let me know when you're done with your buckle and your beak. Yeah? Okay. Get the bristles of your watercolor brush damp. Like water bug it very gently on the surface of your water cup, kind of like ballerina tapitos. Tap off the extra and drag that color in. We added a little more water to our brush because now we're switching over from dry on dry into a wash. As you're taking this class, you will start to learn the difference or the different consistencies between the different types of colors. I mean, different types of water that you're using, and how a certain amount of water will look when you apply it to your paper, and vice versa. We'll be talking about that a lot. You might have to rehydrate your brush in between each feather. That's okay. So we're going to keep doing this drag and pull technique along all the tips of our feathers. Let's say you're splitting your feathers into thirds. You want the yellow placed on the first top third of each feather. We're going to repeat the same process into the next section of our feather, except for I have to spend a little time in my paint palette because my red here is 100% completely dry, so that's why I'm spinning my brush around while you're finishing up. Give it maybe about one or two happy birthday songs, depending on how wet your paint is. I'm just going to add some dots of color to help remind me where my red's going to stop. And then we'll repeat the wash part. If you want kind of the flicky, feathery edge that I got going here, just move your paintbrush. This is what's so nice about flats. You can kind of use them almost like a pencil too to add texture. So you're just going to flick your paintbrush up and down this section here using kind of like a chopstick position with your hands. And you're just going to go gobble, 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 gobble. If you get some in the hat, don't panic. We're actually putting black on the hat, so you won't have to worry. Black will overpower that red that you got there. And we're literally going to repeat one more time with the orange. Use your red before, though, to color in your wattle or your snood. If you decide to have a red snood, then put your snood in now before switching over to orange, because we don't want to taint our colors with too much watercolor paint if we can help it, because it's going to mess with the pure intensities of your watercolor paint. So we kind of just did a wash, a controlled wash. We did the feathering technique to get like these really scratchy, feathery, beautiful kind of, feathery marks in our plumage. And pretty soon here we are going to do the dry on dry technique, which is literally dry paper, dry brush, lots of paint. And don't be afraid to get some of that orange in your red and drag some of that red into your orange. You see that? It will really kind of, create like a blended feel. Couldn't really do that very well with the yellow because the red was so powerful. But we can kind of add a lighter hint of red on the top here. And you guessed it, we're going to do the same thing that we did with the wings, that we did with our feather tips. We're going to do it again. Same thing with the face, except for this time we're going to use brown. All the while, when you switch over back to your dry on dry technique, you're using very little water in your paintbrush when you're doing this to get that really hard, thick line of paint to kind of create that glowy effect. Your paintbrush has to be damp, like towel dry damp. It should not be soaking wet. You should actually have more paint than water on your brush when you're doing this part of your project. So just disclaimer there. And this will allow you more control. In fact, I'm going to add a little more paint on this side because my brush was a little too watery. With my extra paint, I'm just going to dab it onto the tummy here so I'm not wasting. You know how I don't like to waste. So later when we do our wash, these little dabs will serve like as textured feathers. So I just don't want to waste our paint. Alright, so let me know when you're done outlining the brown part of your turkey. Actually, I'm going to outline outside of the wattle and the nose and the mouth or whatnot too. I didn't think about that. To kind of create like a little bit of a barrier so my wash doesn't go into my beak. That'd be sad. If not, we would just put oil pastel on top and call it a day. Been there, done that. I'm going to do around my eyes too. I'm going to give him makeup. Give you eyeliner. Okay. There you go. He's a lot easier to see now, huh? And I got some copper glitter paint, so my turkey's glamming. And you guessed it, we're switching back over to that wash, dragging that color in to the body of our bird.